most definitely with that man that put me in the music business. That was all God, nothing but God. And the trajectory that my life was supposed to take hinged on meeting one man.
93, got that beat.
What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work. What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work. And I have my sister, your sister, our sister, Monique Spence. What's going on, sis?
Hey! Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we were chopping, as we talked beforehand, the chair has turned around. You are one. You're one who glams up, who prepares, who studies, who understands story and the power of story. But you're typically the one that's in her Gwen Eiffel bag and having the conversations with the others. But I'm thankful to be able to have the conversation with you, and I think this is timely. And I don't want to waste any time. How does the Chicago sister, West Side educated, flown down to the warm, swampy Florida, and then obviously has flown around the world, has done exceptional work for brands that people have come to know and love, that have brought out sounds and stories and songs, and then move forward, and you're doing exceptional work one-on-one, group, to help people in their life. How does one, Monique Spence, go from that to this? Where did your passion for this desire to care about life, wellness, communications, and work come from?
You know what? Monique Spence is an only child. And so I never, ever, ever saw this coming. I actually left college early to pursue my career in the music business. And during that time, I did an internship, a 12-week internship that changed my entire life. And during that time, there was a gentleman that taught me everything he knew about the music business, but everything he knew about relationships and people building. And that has been the constant weaving thread through my marketing company, through my media work, through all of that brought me to coaching. Because as an only child, you would have never told me, Lawrence, that my joy and my manifestations would be because other people were happy.
You said it. You said it. I didn't say that. Only child.
Okay. I'll just be honest with you, okay? I was, I wanted, my mother would say I would always give my things to people and share. And she always said this one line that I always protect the underdog. So in a way, I couldn't explain to her then, I don't see the underdog. And I believe that what I do in my work now is very much restore that person that is feeling like they are the underdog.
Yeah, so let's go deeper on that one, because typically I always say that you can't lead people to where you haven't been. You got to take people on the journey. And so when were you, right, or when were you, or have had an experience of feeling like the underdog, right? I don't want to jump ahead with this, but just what were some moments where you felt that?
In my younger years, I was really shy. I had a desire to not be center of attention, but be present in a room. But I didn't really have the how to just be it, right? So I kind of worked my way through waiting for the opportunity to say the funny thing that wasn't expected to come from me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I used that and built on that to take myself out of the shy corner girl. Mm-hmm. So I built on it and built on it. But I believe that often during that time, I felt like the underdog. I felt like I was, the typical bullied. I was light skinned, long hair, that came with the people who pull your hair because you light skinned and the people who could pull your hair because you light skinned. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of that in the childhood, growing up kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And until I worked my way to just being a presence when I walk in the room and don't say anything, I think there have always been moments until I got that my presence walking in the room was saying a lot. Mm. Until I figured that out, I think I felt kind of, well, let me just watch and see what other people are doing or saying. And, and now I'm the person that sets the tone for the room. Mm-hmm. Mm. I've come a long way.
Mm. I mean, like, as we all have, I think this is great. Because I think sometimes you hear this, especially now when you hear this profession, I think for people who are listening, particularly from a business perspective, and you're talking about women who are mm-hmm. stepping into spaces. Now you're talking about the music business and the time mm-hmm. that you're in the music business. And, when we hear the word EMI, Sony, we mm-hmm. we know the names that came through that. So regardless of where you were in the value chain, the outcome is something that we all experience. But this point about, being comfortable, secure, and stepping into the fullness of who you are in spaces mm-hmm. like that, right? Was that at what point when you're in your music career early on, was that a accelerant of, wow, I feel like this underdog, or was that right at the point where you felt like you were stepping more and more into who you were?
That one, which is why I had to tell my mother. So I did this internship. I don't want to go back to college, okay? Because I need to do this. It felt so right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I later learned that so much of my life has been only because I followed feelings, not facts. Mm-hmm. Facts are not my thing. Mm-hmm. Facts change, mm-hmm. but the feeling that I got in that space and working with, so I was a 19-year-old executive by the time I finished that internship. Within a year, I secured a job on one level mm-hmm. That was introductory, but not introductory to the music business for people who started off in the mailroom, mm-hmm. right? Usually mm-hmm. the mailroom guy became the branch manager 30 years later.
Yeah, we know Chris Rock Boomerang. We get it. Yeah.
Right, that kind of thing. And so here I come in essentially off the street into a mid-level position. And within a year, I took a leap and went to Sony. And by that time, I had matched the position that my mentor was in. Mm. And so he'd been in the business 20-something years. And so just like that, I was able to shift and create. But I had to say to my mom, that path that we was on, that thing that we were doing, we're not going to do that no more because this feels like what I'm supposed to do with my life. This feels like where I'm supposed to be. And so I use that, and that thing changes. It leads me everywhere I've been, which is the only way I've done as much as I have to just be as old as I am. Which I'm 40 and I'm proud to say.
Yeah, no, we celebrate. You talking about we celebrate life, right? We celebrate life.
Yes, that's my grandmother would say the only way to get to 90 is to keep going that way.
Yeah. I want to this even when you talk about feeling, there's nuance, there's levels into how you're speaking about mm-hmm. this, because I think this is where now your encounter experience of God. Because it seems like there's feeling of kind of like, the somatic surface of here's how I'm feeling in the moment. right? The little bit, I said, more ephemeral view versus a knowing. It's the feeling. I sense I'm supposed to be here, which opens up the conversation about, was that your how you related and connected to God? Like, what was your Genesis story with God, right? And your relationship with God. And was that how he spoke to you, that when you look back and you see over the years?
Absolutely. Feeling, knowing, and the things that I teach now, actually, my mother started teaching me when I was about 12. First book she gave me was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And even as a 40-year-old, I pick up this book. At 12, this was a hard read.
You're like, stressful.
I don't know that I got it all, because I'm sure I didn't. But what I took away was how to tap into my subconscious mind. And that is actually what has led me on my God journey, which has been a little bit different than, some of my friends. I went to a Lutheran elementary school for the church that was on the corner by the house. Okay. It was a white pastor with 100% Black congregation. The only two white people in the church was the pastor and his sister who played the piano. Okay. We had the dopest choir in the Midwest, period. Okay. They won awards, all kind of amazing stuff came from this little Lutheran church. That was a piece of my foundation. My grandmother and my aunts went to a tiny Baptist church, matchbox size. I had to hold my finger up to go to the bathroom, and my grandmother was the mother of the church, and she was on the front row in a recliner somewhere. And they did the fish fries on Saturday, and that was another part of my God experience. I had the testimonials and all of that. So that was a different kind of church. But the teachings were so different, and the information given was some same, some different. It started to raise up questions in me of, well, don't the people that ain't got no money to tithe, don't they have God? Or don't the people that didn't go to confirmation class, don't they have God? What are you saying? If I don't go to confirmation, I can't drink this thing, so I don't have God? What are you saying? And inherently, that did not work for me. And until I started to run into resources that made sense of that for me, I thought that me and God were just out here, like I was having some solo experience with God and don't nobody understand. And then I started to realize that there were more people who saw a broader spectrum of God than those people in those two buildings that I have been associated with.
I think this helps people track even more, because I think that the questions that I always hear that God is big enough for the questions, the doubts, the doubting one Thomas of Scripture, and then that leading you on a path of exploration, and you leading on a path of exploration for community. But also just for understanding of your life. For you, when do you feel you felt your first encounter of God, from your work? Because as I said, when I paint a picture of, being an early executive, right, in the music business, and this is when the people, they were throwing money, I would say this wasn't just a hip hop throwing money. The marketing budgets wasn't getting slashed like the money was around. So there was just a lot going on, right? And with my quote unquote limited knowledge, we do our research, for you, where did you feel like you get your first God guidance experience in just how you thought about your work, how you approach just your work experience? Where did you feel God intersected there, like, an experience of him?
Most definitely with that man that put me in the music business. That was all God, nothing but God, and the trajectory that my life was supposed to take hinged on meeting one man. And when I tell you, let me tell you a little bit more so you can really understand, because he was God-led, not knowing what he was doing. He was just doing what he's supposed to be doing on that given day. But he not only chased me down to do that internship, he sent me music and sent me CDs the whole time while I was going to college. And you know, back then, Columbia House was the only time you was getting a box of
that
CDs.
$1, everybody that 99, that dollar joint in the middle.
Right? So he's sending me, here's a brandy for you and a brandy for your roommate. And I was like, what? You sending me CDs in the mail? So this was part of how he kept up with the message that he had been given. I needed to be in this business. Whatever you got to do to get her to say yes was all of God, had nothing to do with me, except it was everything for me. So that's nothing, Lawrence. This man, now I know that, you know, you in New York and the separation of space is so much different than it is here. But the way our suburbs versus the west side, or south side versus the west side is set up is all by numbers, okay? So this man drove from 220 south to 0 to the west side to pick me up, because I have no car to do this internship. Once I said yes, I have no car to get there. This man drove 220 blocks down the street, avoiding the expressway for traffic, to pick me up, to drive 35 miles to the office and bring me home after work and go home and come back the next morning and pick me up, all to make sure that I changed the course of my life. That wasn't nothing but God. Man. Because people will take you to the airport around here. O'Hare, you want to go to O'Hare?
We call, like, you test your friendship. It's just like, one is friends, and friends who help you move, and friends who will pick you up from the airport 6 a.m. and on the way back. So there's so many it's so powerful. One man, right? One individual who changed the course of your life. 2, the pursuit. 3, am I qualified for this? Right? This is my age. This. So you're going out of the way to do that. But now you can't even imagine your life. What would it have looked like if that one person didn't sacrifice as much? I'll preach for somebody, but I'm gonna just leave that. I'm gonna just leave that alone.
You ain't preaching for nobody but me, baby. Because I tell you, I can't even imagine. Right? I was supposed to be with you're supposed to get married and you got 2.5 kids and the picket fence and the white gates and the things and who would she be? She ain't me. I have lived and done so many amazing things, but let me tell you the best part of it. I've been out of the business for 15 years and still many of the things I do today are still entangled in the people that I met and built with during that time. We all do different things, but to this day, so much of my life is all because of that same pivot that occurred.
Bam, this is like, I think if you just even froze that this, I think so many people will get so much from that. But I think to your point, one of the things that you talked about is the people building, how important that is through your life, through the process. I find myself now in this space of marketing in this space of helping you build a firm, to help companies, to help brands. What for you kind of clicked, right? Because I see marketing at the end of the day of like storytelling. You're storytelling by different mediums and you're shaping that. For you, what led you to that work at that time, that transition, from 2006, 2005, 2006, you're like, all right, you know what, I need a transition from here. And then also, what gave you a sense of purpose in that work at that time, right? What was the feeling, the divine feeling of, I need to be here right now. I need to be doing this work.
Well, it's a couple God stories in there. The first thing is that my position was eliminated due to merger restructuring. Okay. Now, that's the facts, right? I told you I don't fool with facts, right? I had written my letter of resignation weeks before the facts. I was mentally ready to go. The music had changed, the vibe had changed, the budget had changed, the lot of things had started to change, and it didn't feel the same. And so it was stay for a job and a paycheck, or shift to find a new feeling that feels right. So my position was eliminated. That's the facts. Details I know is that they accidentally left, Lawrence, would you believe this? They left the hit list in my paperwork. So I actually know that my position was not eliminated. They swapped someone for me at the last minute. Now, I happen to know exactly who that person was, and thankfully so, because he got married, had those 2 kids, and he needed that paycheck for X many more years, or maybe even 10 more years that he worked there. But my energy behind it was that I had already let go. Okay? So I manifested my way out of my job. The only reason I hadn't given them my resignation letter was because I wanted the severance that came with the elimination.
Wisdom. You're like, you know what, chestnut checkers, let me not.
Let me not. And since I've been there 6 years or so at that point, I said, let me see what this next round does. And then I'll know what I need to do. Right. And sure enough, that was the last day. God orchestrated that, though, for my personal, but for my family. What I would have no way of knowing, Lawrence, and I haven't talked about this in so long, what I would have no way of knowing was that my family was about to hit a rainstorm of death. And my family needed my time and my presence. And though I had a flexible schedule, I would not have been able to dedicate myself to my family at the time that I was needed. So background is, I come from an older family, and my relatives, my grandmother lived to be 95, but she had her first child at 15, and she had my mother at 42. So there's a 30-year age gap between my mom and her siblings. But then my mother has me at 30. So my aunts are in their 60s when I'm born. Okay? So though they lived into their 80s and 90s, they were just really old when I got here. So 2006 is the year that my uncle is not well, or into 2005, my uncle is not well, and my oldest aunt is caretaking for him. He has prostate cancer, and we're pretty sure it's unrecoverable. So we're not putting him in a home. We take care of our people, right? So we're taking care of my grandmother at the house until she passed, and it was all very old and natural and normal. And this isn't old or natural or normal, but this is what we gonna do. Exactly. My mother notices that in her taking care of my uncle, that she's labored and not as well as she's normally been. And she's around 83 at the time. And so my 83-year-old aunt is taking care of her 67-year-old brother that's dying. My mother decides to take a leave of absence from work and come home to help because she thinks now if I don't do something, I'm going to lose both of them.
Mm.
She leaves work December of 05. I'm separated from my job January 6th. Timing. The next few months, we take care of my relatives. We find out that that aunt needed triple bypass. Now we got 2 down. In that 3-week period between my aunt going to rehab, my uncle's girlfriend that came to visit him and see after him and died. You ever had to tell a dying man that his girlfriend just died unexpectedly on a Tuesday? Then my aunt's boyfriend, my other aunt, who was the older gentleman, we're getting the grass ready to come home for my aunt who's coming home from the rehab. And he goes to the back to get the lawnmower. My aunt goes to the front to find someone to cut the grass. By the time she comes back, he's dead. Mm. The following week, my uncle died. Now it's May of 2006. And we just know that we have made it through and the storm is over. But it was only God that kept me home. My rent was never in question or jeopardy because I had the severance. But I did no work during that whole time because I was around the clock needed for my family. Mm. So as I transitioned out of that, the only thing that felt right was going to use my corporate meets entrepreneur skills that I had, because my job in the music business was marketing and sales, but I worked with the independent record stores. Mm-hmm. So your small mom and pops, mm-hmm. Everybody knows George's Music Room. Mm-hmm. So your George's Music Rooms of the world, right? And so it was a love for small business that I had come to have. Mm-hmm. But Sony had very corporate standards. So I had to merge the two.
Bridge the gap. Yep.
And so coming out of that storm with the family, it only felt right that I needed to do that, bring my corporate expectations into small businesses and help them brand.
Mm. There's so much there. I don't want to speed past that, because now we're here in terms of the transition. And thank you for how you just illustrated that. Oh man, there's so much in that, especially in these times. And this is Greenfield, yeah. Obviously, it's evergreen, of course, right? But a lot of times when we think about kind of purpose, and mm-hmm. I'm saying this as someone who believes in the power and the divinity, and I guess just the dominion we're giving in the place of work, right? Because God uses our work, uses the people we're interacting with, using the work of our hands to move, to shape the world for his purposes. But often we tie purpose only to profession, right? My purpose is this, my purpose is this, but your purpose may be your people in a season. Your purpose may be, wow, I'm thinking maybe God has something for me and transition for me into work. That's why God got me out of this place. Maybe got you out of this place to go home and be with your family. Right. Yes. And so I love how I just love how you that experience. I don't love the pain and what you had to navigate and probably are still navigating. Right. Death is difficult to grieve, but also I also just appreciate just the perspective you have around just the timing and how that all tied together. That I just don't want anyone to miss that, especially now, especially in these times when I think things have stopped and we haven't known why. And for some people, it's just like, okay, that marriage was about to fall apart if you didn't stop, or your child was resenting you if you did not stop, or your own health was actually going down. So this is actually where I want to take it, because now in this space of from marketing and being able to do this work and leverage the gifts, the talents that you have, I'm just wondering what's going on in your mind, even through these 15 years of having this firm, and then getting to the realization of Coach Mo, right? My brain now is here in like Coach Mo place. How did you get there? And then how has your work been so holistic, right? Because there's mental wellness, right? You're still actually leveraging your gifts of at least being and communicating with people. So just tell me how we got to Coach Mo.
Oh my God. So the first thing I want to say is the slowdown that you just mentioned. Let's pause there for a second, because I believe that is exactly why we are in the middle of a pandemic. That I see God all through the pandemic, to be honest with you. I do know that there have been many losses, and we chatted this morning even about, the loss of a friend that I had this morning. And so it's real. It's absolutely real. But for the whole world to go still and quiet at the same time, nothing else could orchestrate such a thing. But I believe that we were all so detached from where we needed to be anywhere near self. And though everyone might not be with self where they want to be, we are a heck of a lot closer than we were last year. Even if you didn't intentionally work on it, accidentally, you had to slow down enough for the pendulum to slow down and stop swinging all over the place as well. Yep. Experiences that whirlwinded me to coaching were life. They were not intentional. The one thing that I have not planned or created or orchestrated even was becoming Coach Mo. The one thing. I had lots of other plans, lots of other things. I will know that I'm doing the right work when work no longer feels like work. So I then set out searching for that feeling. And I can't explain it enough of how important that is, because somebody's with the wrong partner and know it don't feel right, and they stay for this or that reason. Or somebody's at the wrong job. Somebody's in the wrong career entirely, but because of judgment or thought or whatever somebody's thing, we don't like to change anything because then what other people think and all of that. And so I'm only able to be here because I never cared about what anybody thought, and I changed every time a change was required. And what created Coach Mo was the fact that we have social media and people watched me keep doing all these changes. They were like, but you just was doing that, and then you was quiet for a while, and then you did that, but I know your auntie just died, because I had several aunts that died over this, last 15 years. Then it was, but I know you was just going through a breakup. That guy ain't around no more. Why you so happy? Why you still smiling? Why you look like this? Why you this ball of energy? And I kept explaining, well, when I'm happy and I feel good, my phone rings and new opportunities come. What I wasn't quite explaining at the time was what I was doing was no different than what I learned to do at 12 when I learned how to tap into my subconscious mind. I was feeling the feeling I wanted to feel until that feeling became the feeling to feel. And so Coach Mo derives of, I would have conversations with people I would see on the Facebook. They'd have a post that was negative or sad or sorrowful or suicidal or whatever. I would inbox. That would turn into a conversation. I'd get on the phone with them. 3 hours later, I have poured all this information, all this love, all this everything into them. I'd get off the phone and I'd be like, whew, well, I didn't make no money. Oh, I do no work today. Okay. Okay. And then those people started calling back and saying, that one day that you talked to me changed my life. And I started that business, or I left that man, or I left that woman, or I did that thing. And a couple people literally said, I never told you, but I was about to kill myself that day. And the more of those calls came back in, and I started to see there were results to that time spent. But really, maybe I was just interning in my own thing to figure out that it was valuable and that I was doing a thing. And so about 2014, I threw it all up and I said, okay, God, if this is what I'm supposed to do, it's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this and only this, though. And so this is how I'm going to know if it's working. I'm not going to do nothing else to pay my bills. If you want me to be out here, tell my story, do this thing, then this is going to be the work, okay? 8 years later, what can I say?
Bam. Yeah, I wanted to let you rock on that because I wanted to speak through that because I think one of the biggest misconceptions, I believe is that, you can know a lot about something and not know something. I can know a lot about you. I can go to MoniqueSpence.com. I could go to the Sony. I could learn a lot about you. Doesn't mean I know you. And I do think that that's people's experience with God. There is a journey where you've learned a lot. You've had a lot of head knowledge. You believe what you've read. And then you have life. And life it goes from a head knowledge to a written on your heart, your spirit. I believe this thing. Experience.
Knowing.
And so I think this is, you're giving a picture, I think partly in how you led and headline what you shared, but also the reality of like life teaches you, which is, I think that's what the power of work is, that God actually forms us. Like he doesn't like, wait till we get to the classroom. That's when we're going to get taught. No, like it's like he's used, life is happening.
Every day.
People are being sent. Yeah. But also, I don't want to also understate this other piece of just like the faith it requires for you to say, you know what? It's kind of like, it was like Puffy Diddy had this joint where, it was like, Puff, we got to make this work. I got a baby on the way. It was like all in. Right. It was like all in. Yeah, I mean, Derek Luke played that, but that was the whole conversation. But like, It was an all in situation where you're saying, you know what, God, I ain't trying to fleece you. I ain't trying to double dutch with you. What I'm saying is that if this is something that I'm supposed to be doing, I did not pursue this. I just wanted to be of service to people. When I saw something, I felt the sense I should reach out. You did do that. You saw that come back. And then you sing, oh, wow, I've been kept. Look, this 8 years later, I've been kept. I've been good. I've been helping people. I've been serving lives. This is a not even want to say message as in like a sermon. I just think that this is a very clear message and a timely message for people. Monique, yeah. It is a timely message. I do think that there are many people now, because of how the Earth has it felt like it stopped orbiting. Their world has stopped.
For a minute.
There's some people who are kind of trying to figure out their way. They feel lost and they're just unsure about where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do. What is your conversations with clients, with people, with the world now around, the singularity of the things that you did now versus sometimes people feel like they're throwing everything against the wall. What would be your guidance to people who feel like, I'm just trying to find my way? Is it service? Is it saying, you know what, find where you're of service and go? What would you say?
Well, it's a little twofold. It's on the outside. The thing we're looking for is on the outside. You want that new job, that new relationship, that new whatever. That's on the outside part. But the part that's on the inside part is the one that you have to tap into in order to know, is that the match? Mm-hmm. So, for example, if we were dining at our, favorite restaurant and the chef comes out from the kitchen and says, you come here so often, I will make you anything you want to eat today. What would you like? And you don't have no answer. I don't got no taste for nothing. The chef gonna walk away. And you will have missed an opportunity to take anything from the ethers and put it on your plate. Every time you don't know what it is that you want, that's what's happening. Every time you throw two things up, that's what's happening. And so you have to be laser focused on the thing that you want, which means that you have to dig deep enough within yourself, release all the things that no longer serve you, surrender to what currently is, find the flow, and manifest in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could ever say that again. I'm glad we recorded because that right there.
No, you saw it was like, you've been in the studio. It's like dub that.
Dub that. Tweet that. Write that. Screenshot that.
Yeah, I mean, yep.
That.
No, I think particularly the laser-like focus. I do think that's a word that's a ministering to many, right? I receive and hear that. So I do, as we kind of come on to tell, I have to ask you this question because I do think this is a timely question of care and well-being for everybody. I think particularly in work that is people-centered. All work is people-centered, or should be, right? Not just ourselves-centered, but it takes a lot out of you, especially if you're doing one-on-one coaching. You see a lot of people who start off one-on-one. They're like, you know what? I'm cool on that. I'm gonna do this group stuff because this is too much, and the math ain't math, and it's too much, right? What is your rhythm with God? What is your rhythm with God to allow you to pour out on consistent basis? Like, walk us through a day and an ideal. If you kind of cleared your schedule, there's nothing, the Google Calendar stuff, there's no colors, right? What would an ideal, I am locked in, I'm connected with my creator from the inside out, outside in. How do you keep your rhythm healthy and sustainable?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lawrence. I'll tell you what I do and what my day looks like, but I will also tell you the truth, which is the way that I know that it is not my passion or something that I've put together to make a paycheck, but that I know that it is my purpose, is because my gift works kind of like Netflix. When you're in front of me and we are about to do our thing, all of your information downloads. And though I take notes, I don't need notes to know what's happening. I can recall. I have perfect recall. It's one of I used to just use it as my party trick with friends and scare them and be like, don't say that around Monique. She gonna remember 10 years from now. But what the truth is that what I didn't realize was part of my gift. So when a client leaves, I don't hold, which is how I know that it's in my gift pocket, because Monique isn't smart enough to not hold. I'd be worried, I'd be caring, I'd be all these things. So all Coach Mo work is really God work because it comes from somewhere entirely else.
Gift
I
pocket,
don't use
royalty
notes.
free. We pay royalties on that. I'm gonna just throw that up there. But go ahead.
I don't have notes. I don't work from notes, and everything that comes in that space, I just go to that space and it comes out. So I've done 600, 800 rise and shines, and I've never had a single note. All of that is the gift. So there's that part. The other thing, if I had my ideal day, yoga is my yoga mat is my lay it down place. It's the place where I practice, of course, the yoga practice, but where I practice how well I am mentally based on how clear I can get when I'm on the mat. So at times that my thoughts won't stop and I can't focus on the mat, I know I have work to do. There I'm holding, whether it's a personal thing or a client thing. But when I can get to my mat, I have dogs. I love my dogs. A good dog walk is always, part of my joy. Not that I don't do it all the time when it ain't my joy, but when I can do it for my joy and leisure, it's part of my joy. enjoying friends is really my friends are my family because, like I mentioned, my family's mostly deceased. My mom is still here, thank goodness. But my friends are my family. So on a day where I could have lunch with one set or one friend and get out and have dinner with another, go to yoga with a friend, like my perfect day is fused between spending time with myself and connecting, but also getting to share that energy with someone that I love. There's nothing better for me.
I think that is instructive, and I think it's even though you may not even position it, I think it's also an exhortation. I think it's an encouragement, especially for, and again, for me, I think you exercise wisdom and discernment, especially in these seasons that we're in of things not being the way they ought to be, public health wise. But I do think my concern, and I've been expressing this, is it's like atrophy of muscles that are not only our ability, but our even desires have been blunted because of just the four walls of our home. And so,
oh my God.
So I always say, God is a community in and of himself, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We were made for community. We were made for relationships. And so the fact that you can kind of say how much that brings you alive, I think is a testimony of who created you and also for what we need to do to be healthy. So I think that's just so real. It's so true. Monique, I'm grateful for you. I'm really, really grateful for you because I think, I think this was a tip of the iceberg conversation, but I think there's so many.
I would love to have more.
Yeah, there's so many nuggets in here and stories. And I always say, I think, God is not coming and going, right? Like, I don't know. There's so much I don't know. I don't know. I think that's part of it. Even I don't know a lot, right? But I do know some things. And I do, when I do look back and I think about that one man, when I do look back and I think about that moment when I was already going to transition, but they already set it out. And then I saw who they did that for. And then when I got home, I see everything tumbling down. And then if I didn't do, I see that. And I think people will see that. And I think I think this is going to change many lives when they listen to this, as you have been changing lives in your day-to-day work. And so, Monique, for that and much more, I thank you. I am so grateful for you. But I have to ask a natural question. Where do people find you? What's going on? How do people find you? How do they connect with you?
Yes. I wanted to say one thing to your last comment where you were talking about the atrophy. And that is, I tell people, don't die trying not to die. Okay?
That's put that on the wall. Put that on the wall.
Because we so busy trying to not to die, there's one thing that we dying of not hugging. That we dying of not touching. That we're dying of looking at the lady at the Target, telling me, why you ain't on your circle? That, to me, that's dying. Because we need people and we need touch and we need each other. And so don't die trying not to die. For anybody that's so worried about being out and in the world, be smart, be wise, be safe, but live. Okay, so I don't know how we feel about four-letter words here, so I'll just spell. But how to find me is at MoniqueSpence.com. So I am in all the socials, Monique Spence everywhere, Coach Mo, and I do my own social media. You have to say that nowadays. Ain't nobody in China typing for me, okay? No offense to the people into China. But I do my own social media. So if you reach out, it's me you're going to get. And if you would like to set up a consultation, go to MoniqueSpence.com. You can book it right there, a one-on-one session. I even do couples work and all of that. I am easily accessible and able to find.
Y'all, this is just a brotherly. I'm gonna put out there because it's her. Show some grace, fam. She ain't always gonna get back to you in 2 seconds. You know what I'm saying? The more God will use her. Please. I just some people act like they texted you on there. I'm not saying this is my life. I'm just saying this may be your life. I didn't want to set you up for failure. But I'm thankful for God. I'm thankful for the God of the universe. I'm thankful for your work. I'm thankful for your purpose. I'm thankful for who you're helping. I thank you in advance for who you will help because of your story. Which is truly, truly a testament of God's stories through you. And so, my sister, you are loved. I love you. We love you. And I look forward to keeping this conversation going.
Back.
All right.
I can't wait to chat again.
Most definitely. Take care, sis.